Caw. Oh, man. Whew. That is the last time I fly sparrow anywhere. By the gods. Oh, breathe, man. Breathe. Home, sweet home.
At last, Bale had made it back to his humble abode. He had been gone for what felt like days, though it was probably closer to a handful of hours. Poorly lit globes hung from the ceiling of every room, the dusk of sunset casting dark shadows upon everything. After bashing his leg onto some mystery piece of furniture, which clanged loudly, spilling something liquid onto the floor, then furiously cursing the fact, he made his way to a small central room. Opening the door revealed a machine that hummed quietly inside. It had a thick metallic door with a glass porthole on the front of it, a very dim light emitting from within. Bale produced a bottle from under his cloak that glowed so furiously you could not look upon it long. He opened the machine door, which began to siphon wind into it. He then uncorked the bottle, which explosively released the energy it contained, blowing his cloak back and nearly the hat off the top of his head. It was instantly negated by the siphoning effect of the machine, which quickly changed from a quiet hum to a high-pitched whine. He slammed the door closed, securing a large metal latch on the front. He had to squint as the previously dim glow from the portal was replaced by a brilliant white light. Similarly, the globes around his home followed suit. There were several wires of varying sizes connected to this mystically powered generator that ran up through the ceiling and throughout his home, modeled very similarly to a house one would find on Earth, with appliances and gadgets in every room. It seemed to spring to life with this fresh energy. There was no electricity on Brea in the conventional sense, but Bale had found different ways to power it through the years. Ancient dragon's breath, the soul of a powerful poltergeist, an extremely tiny star he had won in a duel with a nether priest, and now with this new power of unknown origin. With the task out of the way,
Would you like me to tell you where I got it from?
Bale said, as if speaking directly to the guide. That being, of course, impossible, as the guide and the traveler are masked from the world through the Omega-level power of the void itself.
So, how long do you plan on crouching behind my couch and narrating everything I do like a big weirdo? And who's that with you?
The jig was up. Bale could somehow see the guide and the traveler. The power of the void was unable to cloak them from his view. An impossibility, except to those possessing extreme alignment with the
Celestial
celestial
wavelength, or to
wavelength.
someone who's channeled the powers of the void before. In which case, I'm covered on both accounts. Again, Mac, how long are you going to narrate everything that's happening like a big weirdo? And who is that?
Ah, yes, well, sorry. Force of habit and all that, you know. This is the traveler, whose name I cannot know, as they are embodied by countless souls through differing points in time and space.
Well, obviously. Pfft, everyone knows that. You don't have to patronize me about the celestial presence and the ethereal conscious vibrations of the traveler. Welcome, traveler.
They can't actually answer you, due to the...
Mac, I know. I'm being polite. And why are you talking like that? I can barely understand you.
Actually, I go by the guide now, and it's supposed to make me sound more ancient and omnipotent, so...
Right. Well, you sound like you're talking in a cave underwater into an echoey pillow guide. So could you give it a break? As a favor to an old friend.
Oh man, I knew it. I told the void it sounded ridiculous, but it said I sounded awesome. 1 second.
There, that better? Much. You know it was fucking with you, right? Excuse me? The void. It was just fucking with you. You know, for an ancient prime celestial with omega-level power, the void has always had a great sense of humor. And it owes me a ring of cosmic light. Tell it I haven't forgotten. Oh yeah, about that. Let's see. Which galactic pocket did I... Ah, here it is. What? No way. For real? Yes! Hastily snatching the ring from the guide, Bale quickly put it on his hand. With a thought, every inch of shadow and every dark recess within his line of sight was immediately illuminated. Smiling, he... Mac, you're doing it again. Shit. Sorry. Well, thanks for bringing this all the way out here to me. You two are welcome to stay for dinner if you want. I've got a rack of trog ribs that there's no way I can eat myself. It's ready to pop in the oven now. You ever had trog? It's as if beef and pork from Earth were allowed to exist in the same animal. It's one of the few things this rock has going for it. Actually, Bale, that's not why we're here. Unfortunately... Oh, shit, hold up. I almost forgot. Before you go, you guys want to get high? Oh, why, yes. Please, thank you, yes. Awesome. I just got some new stuff in, as a matter of fact, and I'm curious if it's any good. Let me just go grab a lighter real quick. Can't you just use the ring that Gustavold gave you to channel some fire? Yeah, but come on, man. It's way cooler to light a joint off a lighter. Besides, that ring always leaves a brimstone smell in the air, and I swear you can taste it on the herb while you're smoking. Please sit, both of you. Or all of you, I guess. To be honest, I'm not exactly 100% sure of the inner workings of the Traveler. I just like to talk a big game sometimes. It's very kind of you, thank you. And I'm not exactly certain either. It's kind of like a vessel that can be inhabited and controlled by any number of beings that have the innate ability to inhabit it at any time. Or the void will speak to me of who is inhabiting it, what they're wanting to see or experience, yada yada yada. Then there's times where no specific being is running it, and it's kind of propelled by a collective consciousness that creates a temporary, unique being that's kind of sort of alive, maybe? I don't try to think about it honestly, or it just raises more questions that never really lead to any satisfying answer, so... yeah. Anywho, love what you've done with the place. Thank you, and I understand exactly what you're saying. 100% makes sense. Really? No, not at all. I'm just going to call them, and pretend they're just some mysterious mute. So can they hit the joint, or... Yeah, again, dude, I'm not exactly sure. I think if the psychic link is connected through a cosmic siphon and bounced back through... You know what? I'm just going to pass it to them. Hey! You, if you can understand me, you are free to hit the joint when it comes your way. If not, pass it on down the line, bud. Understood? Well, they kind of nodded, I think, so we're good to go. Now, if I could just get this damn lighter to work. Oh, yeah, There we go. So, you were gonna tell me about your new power source? What'd you use to juice the old girl up with this time?
Guess.
The molten core of a planet?
Nope. The Griffin King's heart.
No way. I love the Griffin King. You know, we got sloshed together one time, and he actually let me ride on his back as he flew around the throne room. Dude is an A-lister cool guy. Verifiable.
No way, you're lying.
Void as my witness, my hand to the council. When he dove down on the second or third pass, I even said, "Wee!" and threw my arms in the air. We both started laughing so hard he couldn't keep us airborne, and we ate it big time. Ah, man.
Good times.
He, of course, had me exiled from his kingdom the next day. You know, appearances and what have you, but we still meet up for the occasional joint or bottle of bourbon. He loves all earth liquor, but Kentucky bourbon holds a special place in his heart. Sorry, forgive me. Whoa, that's actually blowing my mind. That's one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. He's usually so stoic and reserved. I can't even imagine him laughing. Okay, I give up. Where'd you get it? Right here on Brea. What? How? There you go, sorry. There's nothing here powerful enough to power your generator for more than an hour tops. Oh, isn't there? Can't think of one thing even? Maybe from a certain wizard? There's no wizard on Brea that powerful. I mean, except for... No, you didn't. Yes, I did. There's no way.
Yes, way.
Theandrel?
Yep, Theandrel.
Then that was... You guessed it. It's Caster, sire. Ding, 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 ding. By the void, we have a winner. Traveler, tell him what he's won. Gods damn it, Traveler. You're going to make it impossible to include you, aren't you? What? Wait, what? Wait, what? How'd you get the Grand Caster to use the attack on you and live? Caster's Ire is one of the deadliest spells. It can only be performed by a handful of the most powerful wizards in all of creation. Oh, yes. Sit back. You'll love this one. The top floor of Theandrel's tower lit up like the birth of 100 stars. There was no sound at first, but that gave way to a high-pitched trill followed by the lowest bass a man could hear. Theandrel stood looking down his fully extended arm, just above his flattened palm, smoke twirling up from his hand and around his wrist, heat still emanating from the blast he had just unleashed. And the look on his face was priceless. He was so mad. Angry is not a strong enough word to justify it. You could tell by looking around that there had been an explosion due to the smoke, yet nothing you could see in the room seemed to have even shifted slightly. I knew Theandrel was a mage of such power that he could control his blast perfectly, making sure nothing else in the vicinity was affected, only the spot with which he wanted the blast to incur. He had, after all, far too many valuables to just blow them all up. Where once there stood a man, me, was now just a smoldering pile of ash. Or so I led Theandrel to believe. First, I had to burn through a protection scroll. If I would have done nothing to try and shield myself, he may have thought something fishy was going on. Secondly, as you know, Theandril would have seen right through any invisibility magic. He has extensively trained himself to see shifts in the archaic wavelength. The man can literally tell you what spell you are trying to use before you even finish the manifestation. So this next part cost me. I had to eat one of my figs from the tree of time right before entering his chambers. Since the tree's fruit lets you move outside of time for a short period, instead of back and forth through it like most time spells do, this let me hide the wave shift from him, so I would remain undetected while channeling my cloak of invisibility, which I was wearing under my usual garb. Once that was done, I had to quickly use my magical siphoning jar to absorb the caster's ire. Obviously, it wouldn't be able to absorb such a ridiculously powerful blast as caster's ire completely, but I needed some of its energy to detonate anyway to pull off my little ruse. Burning off 3 more protection scrolls allowed me to enhance the original scroll's power enough to survive the explosion. With some help from Theandril, who would undoubtedly be pulling his punches. Again, trying to keep from blowing up all of his precious things. Lastly, for the icing on the cake, I threw several large pouches of ashes and trimmings onto the ground from the trog I'd hunted the night before. I then used Gustavald's ring cinder to instantly scorch the pile to create a convincing amount of smoke. Lastly, I put an old hat I no longer wore on top of the smoldering mound, for added effect. The piece de la resistance, if you will. Right on cue, the time fig wore off as the blast reached my protection spell. As predicted, Theandril was containing the blast, so the pile of ash and my hat barely moved as I safely retreated into a corner under a veil of smoke. A true masterpiece of deception that only I would have been able to pull off. What? I'm not bragging. That's true fact. The small space in that part of the room continued to fill with smoke. It started to overtake the entire top floor of the tower. Everything was going exactly how I had planned. But then he starts this long-winded diatribe, for literally no reason. Like, as far as he's concerned, he's the only one left in the room at this point. What a fool, Bale. You thought you were just going to walk into my domain and demand of me, the Grand Caster Theandril, to give you my crown of the infinites? I just sat there and thought, is he seriously giving a speech? There's no one here. Who's he doing this for? Your arrogance and ignorance are equally as incomprehensible. How you thought this would end in anything other than a pile of ash for you is beyond me. I'm not the pathetic insect like those you've squashed before. Then I felt my invisibility start to waver. I really needed him to speed it up. I could only channel the cloak's magic for so long, especially after using so many varying magics in such a short sequential time frame. A being of limitless knowledge and arcane power. But by the gods, I'll be damned if he didn't keep going. He was still talking. To himself. Then he said, "Idiot." Which, okay, ouch. That one kinda hurt my feelings coming from an old friend. Now then, what was I doing? Oh yes, summoning the golden dragon. Its scales will be perfect for my little trip. Still laughing at his own wit, the Grand Caster hopped, surprisingly nimbly for a man his age, into the window of his tower and leapt out. He gave a mighty caw like that of a bird. Knowing Theandril like I do, he probably turned himself into a giant condor that he likes to do. You know how he thinks. The larger the animal, the more powerful the caster. Show off. With my invisibility wavering completely, I thought, thank the gods, finally. The smoke started to dissipate slightly from the room, and I began to take form as I stopped channeling the cloak's invisibility completely. Once fully re-established, I used a little-known spell phrase in the ancient tongue, a dialect long since forgotten by the people that dwell in these lands. And it's a damn shame, too. The old tongue is just fun to use. Foray Shavakadu. A rush of whirling wind emanated from my feet, stirring up and clearing the room immediately of the smoke that was left. There I stood, in all my handsome grandeur, dressed completely in black with this silver-lined cloak around my shoulders. I love this cloak. It was covering my entire body, all except my now exposed hand and the bottle I held. It was glowing so brightly I couldn't even look at it. I thought to myself, many things I am, Theandril, but a fool is not among them. Thanks for the caster's ire. I knew demanding his crown would get him riled up enough to use it. I looked around the cluttered room before heading to the window. Were I a man of looser morals and integrity, there was a treasure trove worth of items that any adventurer would kill to get their hands on. Several would have made superior conduits for my own channeling ability. There were rings laden with gems and crystals from the far reaches of lands very few had even heard of, let alone traversed. The charms, rings, talismans, trinkets, gems, herbs, and potions in that one room alone could have given the owner of such rare and powerful oddities the power to rival that of a god. To me, however, they could have just as well been invisible. I'm no thief, unless I needed to be, and by my hands none of these items had been earned. I corked the illuminating bottle I held in my hand and looped a leather string around the top, tying it to my side around the belt I wore. I prepared myself to leap from the same window Theandril had when I noticed a rather large alchemy table next to it. It was one of the most rune-adorned alchemy tables I had ever seen. The Grand Caster was an alchemist savant, I knew that, but this was a mix of alchemy and magic I had not seen before. Sure, maybe a single rune for imbuing magical properties onto a potion or an item, but not several all at once. These specific runes were placed very precisely throughout the table, imbuing the ingredients with the magical properties contained in them. Extremely useful for non-casters who need, say, a potion that can start a fire, or medicine that's enhanced with arcane power like that of a healing spell. But it was strange to see someone so versed in the arcane using it. Several of the runes I knew. There was an illusion rune, a seer's rune, a rune of shadows, a cold rune, a fire rune, among others. It was almost like every rune countered the other. Others I had not seen before. There were also these 3 large crystals across the top that I did not recognize. They were the colors of pearls, coal, and clouds on a rainy day. The third one seemed to shift and swirl, turning from lighter to darker shades of gray. The herbs being used were fairly common, however, and seemed to follow the same pattern of countering one another. They had all been dried out and finely cut, mixed together in a large central pile. Some thistle, cloves, some dandelion, nightshade, some phoenix fern, again, among others. But the 2 that immediately caught my eye were crazy root and jester's grass. I remember thinking, Theandril, you scoundrel, were you planning on taking a trip without the need of leaving? And you weren't even going to invite your good friend Bale. Beside the pile of herbs were 20 or more tiny parchments of paper. They were several different colors, and each was scribbled with ancient texts. Some I recognized, and some I did not. In the middle of the table were a small stack of 10 or so of similar design, with the herbs rolled inside. They reminded me of the joints I would get whenever I visited Earth. Which reminds me, I need to get some more weed and cigarettes on my next visit. I'm down to my last joint and pack of smokes. And brayin' recreationals ain't got shit, as Earthlings would say, on Earths. Their unique smoking herbs and psychedelics are far superior to Brea's. Wouldn't you agree? Except maybe for Crazy Root. That shit is intense. Now, I'm no thief. Unless I need to be. And that was one of those times, with a mischievous half-smile I couldn't contain. I pulled another pouch from under my cloak and greedily stuffed it to the brim with all that I could pack in it, wishing I hadn't set all of my other pouches on fire. I made sure to leave one of the joints behind, as it was the polite thing to do. And some scatterings of herbs that I couldn't fit in the little leather pouch, then tied them off on the same string as the bottle of castor's ire. I almost dallied for too long. It was time to go. My plans for the day had just shifted, and I was eager to see what that wacky wizard tobacco could do. Wacky wizard tobacco? I know, I just coined it. Extremely cool. I guess. Then I leapt upon the ledge of the window. I had almost waited too long to channel Theandral's transformation spell, but there was still enough energy for me to grasp. I set my mind to the task of feeling out the spell, almost like a blind man identifying someone by touching their face. I first visualized what I wanted with the power that was left, and how I'd achieve it. I knew I'd jump from the window, let out the call which would activate the spell using the energy that I had channeled from Theandral, transform into the bird, then I would come home to recharge my house, listen to some Pink Floyd, and smoke a wizardy doob. Laughing heartily, I jumped out the window, letting out a mighty caw before turning into a tiny sparrow. No bigger than the size of a fist. Man, I was pissed at me. I do that type of shit all the time. Either not focusing and commanding the magic, or leave small but important details of using the magic out. With self-loathing, I said, "Oh, gods damn it, Bale. You waited too long. You were too distracted. You didn't have enough energy to channel the spell completely, and now you're stuck as this tiny sparrow. You'll be fucking flapping your little wings for 100 years, it'll seem like, before you make it home. You can do anything if you just focus more, man. Stay on track." I shook my tiny bird head in disappointment and continued to grumble about myself to me some more, really letting me have it. There was plenty of profane name-calling and belittlement, but after a minute or two of that, I decided to cut myself some slack. Well, what's done is done. As they say, once set in motion, the tide can be only followed, not changed. Or like they say on Earth, fuck it. I laughed more heartily than I should have. I couldn't help it. It was hilarious. Of all the dimensions, celestial bodies, or mystical lands I have traveled to, Earth is easily in the top. Funny sayings, funny weeds, funny people. All in all, just a really chill, cool environment. Except for all the war and racially specific hate stuff. Other than that, though, it's very chill, very cool environment. And the sweet icing on top is that their music is fantastic. Yes, today is going to be a good day, I thought. Today is going to be an Earth Day. So I had said, and so it is. Caw-caw! Oh, gods damn it, Bale. It took forever. Yeah, so that was that.